I've spent 6 months studying Shopify users and I've figured out 3 main navigational patterns. I'm going to share them with you today. I'm not going to lie to you, some of these might seem obvious, but I bet there's a couple that we're not doing. And even though they seem obvious, I bet we're not doing them well. It's that whole kind of the idea against execution. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. It's 3 things, but done well will transform your business. And at the end of the day, everything's going to be about conversion rate. So yes, we want the navigation to be great, but at the end of the day, the whole point is to make it more easy to navigate, to filter down, to find what we want so we can buy. That's what it's going to come down to. Let's get into the first example. Huel's got a fancy new site, and actually they've got some really nice things from a navigational point of view. And this is going to be where I introduce you into number 1. And this is based on the page that they start on, they navigate down. So they ignore the menu system, they ignore anything else, and they absorb and navigate the site based on the options that are given to them. Now, that might seem fairly obvious, but it can be hugely overlooked, especially if you go to a lot of service businesses, in fact, but e-commerce isn't great at this either. Is we get them halfway down the page and then we're just like, oh, what do you want to do? Like the only thing to do on the product page is this. The only thing to do on this homepage is look at how great we are. We need to really think through options. The whole point is to really give the different signposting ways that the user can navigate around it. So let's have a quick look. We've got here, we land right at the top of the page. I'm going to discuss this menu in a little bit of time. But as we go down, we've got kind of contrast in here to shop Huel straight away. And then we go into the bundles, we've got the powders, we've got the greens, we've got hot meals, bars, etc. So we're trying to make it really clear the different places that the user can navigate. Now, if I'm not interested in those for whatever reason, I'm going to carry on down the page and really given some testimonials to build credibility. It's like, okay, well, you're not ready for, if you're not still clicking, maybe you want to see the new ready to drink, the ready to drink option. Do you want to give some money off? Do you want to learn about why other people are doing it? If you're not doing that, maybe you're not quite ready to buy and you're still in that discovery phase. So therefore, let's look at some of these health benefits. As you go on down, okay, maybe you're after a particular interest in certain here. So let's look at these different bits of information. You might want to also see some credibility. So as we're going down, they're always trying to give us different options. And as we get down to the bottom, it's like, okay, well, you either should be shopping by now. And if you are not shopping by now, maybe you need some guidance because you're not sure where to stop. I think this is really cleverly done. But getting down to the bottom of the page, it's like, okay, if you're unsure where to start, let's go here because clearly everything else we've offered you hasn't been thought through. I think this is a really, really great idea by Huel and a really nice touch for it. So that for me is the number 1 thing, especially on a mobile. Try that out, right, guys? It's just navigating down. People ignore the menus. They don't go for anything else. They'll just swipe down the page. And as I've said already, these might seem obvious, but it's about the X. And I'm trying to give you some theory behind that so to make it a little bit easier for you to execute on those options. We're not even going to leave the page, guys. We're going to stay on Huel. And the next number obvious, hopefully obvious, but it's all about execution again, is the menu system. So what we found is when we're looking around this is lots of people go for the menu, but all menus, a bit like everything in life, are built differently. Some are great and some aren't. I do think the Huel one is a nice start. I think there's some things that I might want to do a little bit differently, but overall it's a nice start to it. So you'll see here that as I hover over, the rest of the page gets a blur on it and it goes slightly dark. Now, what's really nice about that is it focuses all my attention on the top of the page, and it's all about focusing on these different things. I can then hover onto these, and it's making it crystal clear where I can go. So not particularly useful on the superfoods page because there's only really one option. But on this particular one, like the nutrition, drinks, and snacks, it becomes really easy what I'm doing. I've got subheaders for each one. I've got a little image. So for some people, for example, they buy, well, I've definitely had the black Huel, but I can't remember what it's called. Obviously, it says black edition. But there's a clear difference between them, so you can click on them. I think it's nice to have that image in there combined with the text and a little bit of a description. And again, you can get away with this because they don't offer too many things. Now, I appreciate if you offer hundreds of different variables, this isn't going to work as well. But from an execution point of view, there's still some really nice things that you can take from this. They're still separating these out. I think the blur in the back, the little bit of black further down the page is a really nice way to hone my attention. Is definitely something that we could all be learning from this. Even just a simple kind of shop all, it can sometimes be overlooked. So having just a page where someone can shop, go through however they want, that's a really, really critical one. Now, when we get on a page like this, again, if we're landing on this page, it's all around allowing the user to filter down as quickly as possible. I know we discussed this in some other videos, but it's that kind of sitting down on a Friday night to find your film on Netflix, right? There's a reason they don't just have every film available and they try and categorize them a little bit more. It makes it so much easier for you to filter down, find the one that you're potentially interested in. Same with this, right? So I want to be able to filter my options as quickly as possible. I want to be able to click on breakfast. You'll see it removes some of these. I want a particular drink and I want to be nutritionally complete food. It's like, okay, these are my only two options I can now go for. It makes it so much simpler for me just to hone down, focus on what I need to focus on. So that's a really nice way of doing it. Now, interestingly, they've also got these options at the top, and I think these are probably really designed for a mobile because you can swipe through them, you can click on them that way. I think that's quite a nice way of doing it. Obviously removes these options along the top. A little bit of thought that probably needs to go into this. We've just got a big block of SEO text in there, but we'll let them off because overall, I think this is really, really strong. Now, I know we should be moving on from the menu system, but there's another one I wanted to kind of show you if you do have a large amount of products, right? And I do think that the way Wayfair has kind of planned some of these out does work fairly nicely. Now, it's obviously not amazing, it's not stunning, but I think from an option point of view of if you do have a huge number of individual products, this is a nice way of doing it. They've got a slightly different color at the top for that, and it's in bold to highlight if there's different sections. I think there's enough padding around them so that they stand out in their own individualized sections. So you've got the mattresses, then the window treatments. There is just enough padding in there. And even just simple things like changing them into red and then being really consistent with our use of red to say that's for a sale, I think is a really nice way of doing it. As I've said, there's a lot going on here, but I think if we're going completely the other end where you've got hundreds, if not thousands of different categories, this is probably a nice way of doing it. I also do like this right-hand side area where you've got these potentials for more visual elements to pull in. If there's something you really want to push, I think that's a really, really nice way of doing it. Now, we are going to stick with Wayfair, and I feel bad because I've now done a really nice thing about Wayfair, and I'm going to say something that could be improved. But this is what I was talking about at the start of the video, that the three ideas that I'm going to give you probably seem simple, but it's all about the execution. So the third option is actually going to be search. This is how someone's going to navigate around. But search execution can be done differently on all, so please stay with me on this. You'll see here on the actual Wayfair. Now, I feel a bit bad now because I've just spoke about how great Wayfair is, and now I'm going to talk about something that they don't do well. But this comes back to what I was saying at the start of the video, which is it's all about the execution, not necessarily just the idea. But number three that I found from looking at everyone on Shopify for 6 months is that they will go for the search. Obviously, it makes sense, but stay with me. I promise this is useful because, again, it's all about the execution. You'll see here, if I just click into here, I go sofa as an example. I don't get anything visual. I just get some options. Now they are doing what is called fuzzy search. They're trying to give me some ideas of where I might want to go, but there's just so much more that we could be done with here. It could be giving me most popular options, what my best sellers are. It could be giving me imagery. The overall options of what it's kind of doing here is pretty rubbish. Now you're going to see in this next option I'm going to load up what that difference now feels like. So we're now going to head over here and we're going to look at some black trainers, let's say, for example, and you can instantly see what the difference of this is. And this is what I'm talking about with execution. It's so, so key. Now, what you'll see here is, and there's a couple of things I absolutely love, and I have done some snippet videos on this actually for this particular page, but you'll see here that not only is it giving me the options, so black shoes, black trainers, but it's telling me how many individual things fall under this. Now, this is absolutely brilliant because I can keep adding to this to try bring it down. It's like, I don't want to look at 548 pairs of black trainers. That's just too many for me to look through. Okay, well, I want men's shoes. Yeah, I can bring that down. So immediately that's gone from 548 to 269. So what's great about this is I can just keep adding to this and just improving this as we go. And that's what the big great thing about this particular search is. But you'll see here, if I just go back to when it just had a small number of words in with the black, it's pulling in individual products, it's pulling in individual imagery, and it's allowing me just to look for absolutely everything in here. This is the difference when I talk about execution. You can imagine this on the mobile, just taking up that nice screen as I'm following through. It's going to make it so much easier for me to filter down, find the individual items that I'm at. And that's your lot. They're going to seem simple, but execution is key. As a reminder, some people from Shopify point of view will land straight on the page and they will scroll down based on that page that you're on. So bear in mind, you can't just have the options only on the homepage. They might land on the filter page. They might even land on an individual product page. And there's this argument, right, of like, we want the whole page on the product, but this single product page should just be about the product. And that is true. We don't necessarily want them disappearing. But if they get all the way down to the bottom, they're not quite ready or they don't think that's quite right, we need to give them options to keep them on the page. So that is number one. Number two is having the main menu. And again, down to execution, we've looked at some options around making more visual or giving it the space that it needs. Can we filter those options down like they did on the Huel site? Or do we make sure that the overall padding and spacing is much clearer, so even if you have a lot of content on there, it's still really, really digestible? And then the third one is your search system, and not just having some basic search system, but really thinking it through, making sure it's going to be useful for the user and trying to make sure that you're really allowing the user to filter those options down in real time. That's what's going to make a really big difference to your conversion rates. Now, lastly, there is a really nice little video just over here all about Shopify as well. It's got some tweaks and changes that you might be able to do just to increase your conversion rate that you can do without the need for a developer. So please check that out. And thank you again for watching. Have a great day. Bye.